because I want to cover a portion of chapter 11. All right, everyone ready?
Yes.
All right. Now, liquidating distribution. Let me point out the good news. Everything's good news, right? According to tax. You want to open up to code section 736? There's two kinds of payments on liquidation. Two kinds, okay? The big one is 736B. The big one. 95% of the time, 98% of the time, the payment is going to be a 736B payment. And the good news for your team is 736B payments are essentially what we've been looking at in chapter 10, okay? So they are the vast majority, they are payments for the interest in the partnership itself, the partnership property. With rare exception, you can have a 736A payment. 736A payments, if you look at 736A, are payments considered as a distributive share or guaranteed payment, one or the other. And again, the code says it's one or the other. It doesn't say in 736A what is a 736A payment. But if you look at 736B2, B2 says, for purposes of this subsection, payments in exchange for an interest in a partnership shall not include amounts paid for, okay, unrealized receivables or goodwill of the partnership, except to the extent the agreement provides for a payment with respect to goodwill. Another way of saying that is unless it is what's called stated goodwill. Now, let me then look at paragraph 3. Limitation on paragraph 2. Paragraph 2 shall only apply if capital is not a material producing factor for the partnership, meaning it must be a service partnership, and it's got to meet both conditions. The retiring or deceased partner was a general partner in the partnership. So let me help you extrapolate from all that stuff. The only way 736A applies is in two different ways. Way number one, if it's a general partnership, which is a service partnership. So way number one that 736A can apply is very, very limited. Why? Because there's not too many general partnerships out there, but it can apply to a general partnership, which is a service partnership, an accounting firm, law firm, architectural firm. And it only applies to the accounts receivable and the unstated goodwill. I'll repeat. The first context, figure number one up, is if it's this service partnership, it applies to the accounts receivable and unstated goodwill. That's it. That's the possibility of a 736A payment in that context. And there's one other context you could have a 736A payment, that it could be a non-general partnership, it could be a capital partnership. In other words, this can apply universally. If there's a so-called premium payment, if someone pays the liquidated partner some sort of premium payment, it can be a 736A payment. So we have two very, very narrow contexts in which 736A applies. The vast majority of the time, it's going to be a 736B payment. So notice the authors. What do? This chapter starts off on page 385 with a discussion of 736B payments. Why? Because that's the bulk of what payments are going to be. If you're getting liquidated from a partnership, and we're going to look at when the partnership itself is liquidated, but this is just you, meaning there's multiple partners and you're leaving the partnership. Okay? The partnership itself is continuing in business. And what are the consequences to you? And when your interest is being liquidated, just put yourself in the shoes if your interests were being liquidated or your client's interest. What do you want to get paid for? You want to get paid for your interest in the balance sheet, right? The assets on the balance sheet. Agreed? If you can, you'll want a premium too. If you do command a premium, that's a 736A payment. Okay. Now, the tax consequences to the liquidated partner. Guess what comes into play? You get assets, right? Everyone agree? You're going to get a bunch of assets. And by the way, depending on what you get, there could be a disproportionate amount. Towards the end, the authors discuss, oh no, 751B could apply. For the moment, let's not even go there. But I just, in your mind and in your notes, just point out, if it's disproportionate, 751B could apply. Otherwise, guys, rest assured, rest easy. Beginning on page 387, our normal rules. Essentially, our normal rules with distributed property applied. What code section? Been there, done that. Code section 732. Very, very mechanical rules. Are set forth on page 387 in the outline I created to help you. The rules are there too. Again, I invite you to use my outline or do whatever you want with my outline. Use it for kindling for fire, but create your own outline. The authors on page 388 point out that right past the indented language, that 735 again preserves character. We're not surprised. 735 preserves the character. And for the first time, unlike an operating distribution, you can get a loss. You can get a loss. And for those who've had corporate tax, I just want to call to your attention by way of contrast. You're not being held accountable for this, but I think some of these contrasts are useful. In the corporate area, when you make distributions of property, any effect to the corporation if you make distributions from a corporation? Very important code section.
Yeah.
You guys remember? Never forget. You know, sometimes you guys look at music, those in the music business, right? They get tattoos of all sort of, in my mind, strange things. But for them, it's not that strange. You know who blew my mind? I saw him, again, you see too much on the treadmill. You ever see Post Malone? He's got lots of tattoos. Now, Carlo, was that his song Circles? I saw you doing a few circles.
Yeah.
What was that?
Tattoos all over.
Does he have it on his face? I know on his knuckles.
Yeah, he's got it like by his eyes too, I think. Yeah.
And I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin Bieber has a tattoo of a tear, which looks like dirt, but who am I to say? You know, you guys are in, you know, we're not in the music business, so you're not gonna, I think Post Malone has tattoos of his favorite musical musicians. But you guys, who's stopping you? You want some in? Code section 311.
Oh my God.
All right?
Take that to the section.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Right?
I was gonna say that.
Code section 311.
Do you have any?
No. None that I'm willing to tell you about. 311, right? Code section 311, right? It says that gains are recognized, losses disallowed, right? If a corporation makes a distribution. You guys should not forget that. But that's on operating distributions of a corporation. Liquidating distributions. Guess what? Code section 336 says gains and losses can be recognized, right? If you remember, by way of contrast. So, in a liquidating distribution of a partnership, guess what? Losses can be recognized, or it may be forced. If you look at page 388, recognition of loss, 3 lines down. And it says, well, consider next the partner will receive solely cash, unrealized receivables, and inventory. In that event, unlike the case with operating distribution, 731A2 provides the partner recognizes a loss to the extent his outside basis exceeds the sum cash distributed, plus the partner's 732 transfer basis in the receivables and inventory. Loss is incurred, considered as incurred on the sale or exchange of partnership interest, and thus a capital loss under 741. So, unlike operating distributions where losses are not recognized, liquidating distributions, depending on the nature of the property being distributed, losses may be recognized. Generally, is there any effect to the partnership as a result of a liquidating distribution in your answer, EK? I'm waiting for you to say. No. No. Right? No. Except if there's a 754 election and then 734B adjustments have to be made. And the last full paragraph on page 389 talks about certain circumstances where you're forced to make adjustments. You're forced. And the authors would be derelict in their duties on page 389 if they didn't point out that 751B can come to haunt you in a liquidating distribution. Right? And they go through an example of 751B orchestration.
Professor?
Yes.
So if you could get a tattoo of one code section, which one would it be?
I gotta think about that. I have some ideas, but I don't want to. I would think not having anyone who's gotten a tattoo, you think long. I like to think you don't just do it on the spur of the moment. You would think long and hard before you did it. So I haven't given that much thought. Ask the next class. I'll see if I can.
Okay.
Okay. Problem 1. I know people, us tax people are kind of crazy. There's a guy I know who made a lot of money with marketable discounts. So his license plate was code section 2036C. He literally had 2036C because this code section afforded him to buy a very fancy Lexus. Subsequently, the code section was repealed, but he kept the license plate. He was proud of Jerry Diener, if you know the name. He's a practitioner up in Bergen County. So I don't know if you need a tattoo. License plate might suffice, guys, just in case Congress, you get code section and then Congress repeals it. All right, page 391. Let's look at these because it's going to be reinforcing things we've done. Okay, so I just want to, and the good news, guys, is this is going to serve as a reinforcement, like I said, of what we just looked at. I hope it does. if we have a partnership with the following balance sheet, in a liquidation of his interest, A receives a 1/3 inventory of parcel one and parcel one. What are the tax consequences of the distribution to A in the partnership? And I just call your attention, in this particular instance, is this a disproportionate distribution? Let's clear the air about some things that I want to just call to your attention. Does 736A apply, right? That's a question. You always have to have an unliquidating distribution. Does 736A apply? And your answer is? Well, does it? It could apply, but does it apply? Go to why not?
Because it's a proportionate distribution.
All right. 751B addresses, is it a disproportionate distribution?
Yes.
Yes? Why? I hear no.
No.
No,
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 I'm
no,
sorry.
no. Notice, Jonah didn't say one no, she said no. So that's definitely a no, right? Everyone agree? This is a proportionate distribution. So 751B does not apply. Now the question is, does 736A apply? What do you need for 736A to apply? Is it a service partnership? It didn't even say, but I think it said it's capital intensive partnership, right? Did it make that point that it's capital? Maybe it didn't. Maybe I'm dreaming it.
But the fact that it has inventory and
And land.
land suggests that it might be capital intensive.
Yeah, it does suggest it's capital intensive. So,
It doesn't have.
736A doesn't appear to apply, and there's no premium payment, all right? So, I think we can comfortably say, let's dismiss 736A and 751B. So, let's talk about A, getting these assets, and what are the tax consequences to A? Okay? This should bring you back down memory lane of what we did last week. A's getting this 2 set of assets. 1/3 of inventory in parcel one. Parcel one has a $100,000 basis inventory. What is he getting? 1/3 of the inventory. So what do? We assign. Where do we assign? You guys should know from last week. And you're going to see this on the exam, so everyone should feel 200% comfortable. If you don't, it's not going to be a good day. On what basis does he take in the inventory and the land? Where do you assign basis first to? What's our rules under 732? Guys, you guys should know this by now. We assign what basis to the inventory? How much? Why do you say 1/3
so
of
10,000.
15,000? Because he's getting 1/3 of the inventory. How much is 1/3 of the inventory worth? 10,000 with a basis of 5,000, right? So taxpayer A is going to take a $5,000 basis, right, in the inventory received. Isn't that what 732 says? 732B. A is going to take a $5,000 basis in the inventory, and what basis in the land? How much basis does A have left? A's outside basis is now equal to what? 80, right? Goes from 85 down to 80, right? What basis, though, now will A take in the land, guys? 80, right? You can only take a basis. The maximum basis is capped at 80,000. Everyone agree?
But it will take 1/3 of the, or only inventory will
Well, he's getting the entirety of the parcel of land, right?
It has to be 1/3 of the 100,000 of the parcel, one line also, right?
No, but he's getting the
Yeah.
entirety of parcel one. He's not getting 1/3 of the.
It's
Okay.
not disproportionate.
Alright, so for your notes, A's gonna take a $5,000 basis in the inventory, and he's gonna take an $80,000 basis in the land. And the inventories, just for your notes, as a 5-year taint, it's gonna be treated as inventory for the next 5 years under 735, right? Just so you know, guys, someone's not on mute in WebEx. So you may want to put yourself on mute. Put you there. All right. So for your notes, again, the taxpayer is going to take a basis in the inventory of $5,000 and $80,000 basis in the land. Any questions? This is just what we did last week, guys. And you're going to see this on the exam. All right? And no one should say, oh my God, I can't believe he's asking this. Ready? Question B? And let me just point out in question A, any effect to the partnership? No gain or loss to the partnership, right? 731B. No gain or loss to the partnership. How about if there were a 754 election? If there were a 754 election, where would you, how much basis disappeared, guys? What would be the 754 adjustment here? You could, the basis in the land went from 100,000, right? Parcel one had a basis of 100,000. What is the parcel one in A's hands now? 80. Whoops, we lost 20,000 of basis, right? That if there were a 754 election, that 20,000 would be restored to the same sort of asset. In this case, parcel two, the basis would go up from 50,000 to 70,000. What's my authority? 734B1B. I'll repeat, 734B1B.
So there are no tax consequences to
There
A?
are no tax consequences to who?
A.
Well, A just gets the 2 pieces of property, there's no gain or loss. I will call to your attention. Notice A is being liquidated. How much was A's potential gain or loss?
20.
Where did you get 20 from?
The 100 minus the 80?
And look, A's capital account is 70,
Oh.
and the adjusted basis is 85,
Oh,
15,000,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Isn't A getting inventory with a basis of 5 worth how much? 10. So there's a potential gain of 5. And getting land, right, worth 60 with a basis of what? 80. So there's a bit potential $20,000 loss. So if you group the two, 15, doesn't that feel good? You can check yourself. George. Yeah, I'm just pointing out overall, numerically it checks out. All right? Question B, in liquidation of his interest, A again receives 1/3 of the inventory, also receives $60,000 in cash. What are the tax consequences of the distribution to A and the partnership? So, take a minute, try to come up with your own answer. By the way, folks on WebEx, if I'm saying something that doesn't make sense, don't be bashful. Ask, feel free to ask because we can hear you. So if someone's getting stuck, let us know. So in question B, any immediate tax effects to A? A will recognize a gain. Why?
Isn't it a loss?
Loss of how much?
20.
Say it loudly.
20,000?
Why?
Well, 5,000 inventory basis.
Okay, so he's getting the inventory, everyone agree? Which reduces his outside basis, right, from 85 to 80, agreed?
And then 60K cash, which reduces it to 20.
So out basis will be zero, out basis. will
Right,
be-
but it's zero, so because he
Alright, so
has,
he's getting 60,000 in cash and his outside basis is 80, right?
right,
So economically, look at code section 731A2. 731A2. Says, loss shall not be recognized except in liquidation in which no property other than that described in A and B is described. So what is A getting? Money and inventory, right? So this is an occasion for A actually to recognize a loss of 20, which makes sense because A is going to have a capital loss of 20. And if A sold the inventory, it would have a gain of 5. Once again, George, you net the two. Numerically, it winds up being 15, which is what we thought A should have, right, Susan? Right? Andy, you got that? Sammy, Isabel, everyone see that? So for your notes, people on WebEx, A experiences a $20,000 long-term capital loss. What's my authority? 731A2. Right? And he's going to receive inventory with a basis of 5, fair market value of 10. Partnership have any gain or loss? No. Once again, 731B. And, shocker here, what would happen here if there were a 754 election? Here, because A recognized a loss here, what would happen is, if there were a 754 election, it would trigger code section 734B2A. I'll repeat, code section 734B2A, and we'd have to reduce the property. Okay, we have two properties, land 1 and land 2. We'd have to reduce the adjusted basis by 20,000, and we do it based on the fair market value of the property. Okay. This is under 734B2A, so that 20,000 would reduction, 2/3 would be property 1, 1/3 would be property 2, or the $6,667 reduction on property 2, and $13,333 on property 1 would be the basis reduction. Right, so again, for your notes, generally there's no effects to the partnership, but if the partner here recognizes a loss, if there were a 754 election, code section 734B2 capital letter A would cause a $20,000 downward adjustment. And again, that downward adjustment is allocable based on the fair market value of the two remaining land 1 and land 2. Question C. Why is recognized loss under 731A2 limited to liquidated distributions and further restricted with regard to the nature of the distribution? What Congress was interested in is, not surprising, they didn't want folks to convert capital losses into ordinary losses. So if you allocated the extra basis to the inventory, you can't allocate the extra basis to cash, right? So if you allocate the extra basis to inventory, that's, you know, you're inviting taxpayers to secure large ordinary losses. So Congress was not being magnanimous by allowing taxpayers to have losses on liquidations. They wanted to preserve the capital loss treatment, and you guys know capital losses, right, are subject to the limitations under Code Section 1211, right? That corporate taxpayers can only take up to capital gain, and non-corporate taxpayers up to $3,000. So again, liquidated distributions, Congress wanted to force capital losses. Question D, what result to A and B above if the inventory were worth 120 rather than 30, and A's interest was worth 100, and A received $60,000 in cash and 1/3 of the inventory? So if A's interest was worth 100, so now there's a potential $15,000 gain. So work out the numbers. What are the authors driving at here? A receives pretty valuable inventory, right? The inventory is not, it's very valuable, right? Really appreciated. What would happen there? Well, once again, Dave, what would play
yeah.
out here?
It looks like he gets exactly what his adjusted basis is worth, so no gain, no loss.
Well, what would be his adjusted basis in the inventory? 5,000, right? There's no difference in the basis. Everyone agree?
Right.
Our taxpayer would take a $5,000 basis. Agreed? What's
Yeah.
the fair market value of the inventory?
40.
40, right? And what's his outside basis as a result of getting the inventory?
Well, they're saying it was 100.
No. Let's go back. It doesn't say, it's saying his interest, his capital count is 100, but his basis is still what?
85. Oh, I misunderstood that.
His outside basis starts at 85, his capital count is at 100, he gets the inventory, what happens to his outside basis?
It goes down to 0. And then he has to recognize
hold
gain.
on. No. Why does his outside basis go down to 0? Hold on. What does his outside basis go to?
Oh, okay, sorry, it goes down to 20, yeah.
Why? Hold on. What? He's getting inventory. The inventory is significantly increased, but the basis to the partnership in the inventory is still 15, right? I think you're misreading the problem. It says the inventory was worth 120. It didn't say to change the basis.
Okay,
The
but
inventory's basis is still how much? 15.
yeah, so he gets 5,000 of that.
Okay, so everyone agree? He gets inventory with a basis of 5 worth how much?
40.
40, right? He gets 1/3 of the inventory. With a basis of 5 worth 40, right? What happens to his outside basis?
It goes down by 5.
Goes down by 5, right? Everyone agree?
Yeah.
To what?
To 80.
To 80. Now what does he get?
60 cash.
60. Gain or loss?
Nothing.
Why nothing? He's getting liquidated. He's only getting inventory and cash again.
So then it's a loss, sorry. It's a loss of 20,000.
He gets a loss of 20.
Yeah. Oh, same answer, okay.
Same thing, okay? But notice, in the inventory, he has a potential gain of how much?
35.
His potential gain of 35. He's getting a capital loss of 20. Okay, everyone agree? George, we're going to net them. What's the net? 15. Feels good, right? Because his capital account started at 100. His outside basis was 85. We knew he was going to have a $15,000 overall gain. Everyone agree? And we've just proven that. because he has a 20,000 capital loss, and he has inventory with an embedded gain of 35. So the numbers check out, right? Julia, you got that? No, listen one more time. Everyone got this. We're distributing inventory, appreciated inventory, right? With a fair market value of 40, adjusted basis of 5. Everyone agree? He's getting 1/3 of the inventory. And normally, that's just a normal distribution from our last chapter. What does that do? Nothing. Meaning, he gets it, he takes a basis equal to 5 in the inventory. His outside basis is reduced by 5, right? From 85 down to 80, right? Everyone's good with that first step. Then he's getting $60,000 of cash. His outside basis is 80, right? We can't assign cash a basis of 80 and fair market value of 60, right? Cash doesn't cut it. So 731A2 says, got to take a loss here. Capital loss, right? Capital loss of 20,000, right? The difference between his outside basis and the cash he's receiving. So he takes a $20,000 capital loss, but that's okay because with the inventory, he had an embedded gain of 35. If you put the two together, it would net 15,000 a gain, but if you read this problem, his capital account started at 100, okay? His capital account started at 100, and he had a basis of 85, so he had $15,000 a gain overall, okay? If it doesn't work because it's a Wednesday night and you're putting in a long day at work, please write this down in your notes, please review it, please make sure you understand it. Okay? Now, I don't know if folks on WebEx, if you have any questions or you're following along. Okay, any questions? Everyone's okay? We're all good in the room? Oh, now we get to a really good problem. Okay? It's just keep getting better. Partnership distributes capital asset 1, inside basis of 5, fair market value of 40. Capital asset 2, inside basis of 10, fair market value of 10. To a partner in liquidation of A's interest in the partnership. Part of the distribution to A had a $55,000 outside basis. Determine his basis in the two capital assets. So this could be an exam question, right? And you guys would say, that's good, I anticipated that. All right, good. Go to it. Tell me what the basis should be in each of these assets. Anyone have a number they're feeling good about? Two numbers, C1 and C2. Capital asset 1, capital asset 2. Okay,
It's carryover basis.
Say again?
Carryover.
So your answer,
My answer is 5,000 and 10,000.
but this is a liquidated distribution. It's
Right.
an outside basis of 55.
Right. So So he has a remaining outside basis of 40, which
So what are you gonna
is,
do with that?
it's a potential loss, but if he
But
sells.
there's no losses. You can't get a loss if you distribute,
This is not
any property which is non
money or
751 property, you never get a loss. You have to absorb the entirety of this basis.
whatever
I'll
the-
repeat.
Oh,
whatever
In
the-
other words, you have to allocate this basis. The partner does not get a loss here. This basis will be allocated to these two properties. The 55,000 must be allocated
and why is that again?
because Congress doesn't want to give taxpayers a loss at this juncture. They think it's premature until there's an actual sale or disposition of these capital assets. You'll see how this plays out. Anyone have a basis in C1 or C2?
Well, it's a 10% loss.
There's no loss though allowed here.
Oh, sorry.
Well, let's start with these properties. Ben, go ahead.
Throw something out there. 9K for the capital asset number 1, 11K for capital asset number
What was your first one?
2. 9K?
But you only accounted for 20,000 at a 55. It must, guys, you can check yourself on this. We must absorb the entirety of the partner's 55,000 outside basis, right, guys?
So then it's 44 and 11
Okay, why?
because we have to absorb 55,000 of the outside basis, and the fair market value is 50. So we divide it proportionately. So 44 and 11.
You got to the promised land, but I don't know if you took the right steps to get there. So let's start. Let's go with the code. Code section 732C1B. We're going to assign each one, as you did last week, basis number 1, or asset number 1. You assign 5,000 and asset number 2, 10,000. That's the first thing. In other words, that's the starting point, right? Everyone agree? And we've taken care of 15,000 of the 55,000, right? So that's 732C1B. Assign each one what they're supposed to be the inside basis. Then code section 732C2A, 732C2A says if there's unrealized appreciation in the property, allocated in proportion to the unrealized appreciation. And here, only one property has appreciated, right? Asset 1, how much is it appreciated by? 35,000. Asset 2 is not. Okay, so we've taken care of 35,000. So we've taken care of 50, right? 15 plus 35, so we have to account for 5 more. And then, just so you know, code section 732C2B, code section 732C2B says allocated in proportion to the fair market value of the properties. How much is property 1 worth? 40,000. How much is property 2 worth? 10,000. So 4 fifths of 5 is how much? 4,000 and 1. So we've accounted for 55,000. Basis in C2 is 11, and you'll appreciate this. This one is 44. So you got there. I'm not sure if it was by accident or real. But
I don't know. Common sense, I guess. I don't know.
Right, fair market value total would be 50K. This is, I think,
Yeah.
So the difference between the total fair market
So
value
there's
and
5,000 to be distributed.
listen, if it gets you there, but again, there's code sections that get you there. Okay. Listen. I don't know the. I gave you
Okay.
3 code sections that get you to the promised land.
It's got to make sense first.
Well, I'll leave it at that. All right. The fair market value is 732C2B. 732C2B. Okay? So everyone have that in their notes? This is for problem 2. Okay, you ready for question 3? partnership has the following balance sheet. A receives land as, land number one as a distribution and liquidation of his interest. Partnership. Both parcels of land are capital assets to the partnership. Disregarding 736A, which is inapplicable, discuss the tax consequences to A in the partnership. There's no 754 election. Now what should you notice? A's getting liquidated out, right? And what's clear here? Should jump off the page.
It's disproportionate.
Ah, disproportionate. Before A had how much interest in what?
1/3 of 12 of capital assets.
Well, is it easier or hard to follow the capital assets? What's easier to follow?
Oh, inventory.
Yeah, what interest did he have before?
2,000.
What does he have now?
0.
0. So,
2,000 of ordinary income.
well, we have to give him, we have to stuff him with what he doesn't want, right? And everyone see that our taxpayer is getting 2,000 too little of inventory, right? Because we're supposed to get 1/3 of the inventory, now he's getting a goose egg of inventory, right? So that means he's getting 2,000 too little of inventory, agreed? And 2,000 too much of the non-inventory and accounts receivable. So, you guys ready to do what? We ready to do the 3-step?
Dance.
All right, let's dance. Okay, we gotta do our phantom distribution. Okay? Elizabeth, I'll try to do this on the left-hand side just for you. So we're gonna give them inventory of 2,000, right? So that, what basis? What basis will you have in the inventory, guys?
0.
0, right? So that's going to reduce his outside capital account, right? So, what's step 2?
Constructive sale.
Constructive sale, right? Now, what's he going to get in return? He's going to sell. He's going to sell his inventory. What does he want here? As a result, he wants land number 1, right? Everyone agree? Okay. So what's going to happen as a result of the constructive sale, guys? Happen.
Well, he uses $2,000 worth of inventory to purchase.
Right, he's going to use 2,000 of inventory to purchase 2,000 of land 1, right?
Right.
So he's going to have 2,000. A's going to have 2,000 of ordinary income. And what results to the partnership? what is it gonna use to purchase the inventory, guys? It's gonna use land number one, worth how much? 2,000 with a basis of what? Sandra, you should know this. You raised this before. What's the basis gonna be, Sandra, in the land? Well, he's using land one. If he's using 2,000 of land one, Sandra, what's the basis in land? When I say he, I apologize. The partnership's using land one to purchase the inventory. What's the ratio of fair market value to adjusted basis? It's 1/2, right? So what's the basis if he's using if the partnership's using $2,000 worth of land one? 1,000, right? So the partnership's going to experience 1,000 of capital gain, right? Allocable to whom? B and C. So in that case, cash is 3,000 each, or 3,000. The inventory is now going to have a $2,000 basis, right? Worth 6,000 because the partnership bought it for 2,000. $2,000 worth of inventory. The land one I should have, land one here. The remaining land here has a basis of 2, fair market value of 4, right? Because they used $2,000 of land already. And land 2 remains the same. And A, right? Nothing happens to A, but B and C, because the gains of the partnership, their outside basis should go up by 1. So this becomes 16, 10, 16, 10. And now, what do we have to do? We have, 1 second, it's on a question. We have our distribution. Okay? We have our assets. Cash, inventory, land 2, because we're going to get rid of land 1. And goodbye to A. A is going to go by, like the dodo bird, disappear. This interest is being liquidated out. Now, I just call your attention. What basis does A take in land 1? A is going to take a basis in the remaining land of 3, right? Everyone agree? A is going to take a basis in the land 1 of 3. His total basis, right, is going to be 5. The 2,000 that he purchased, right? The 2,000 that he purchased plus the $3,000 on the distribution because that was his outside basis. So his total basis is going to be 5 in land number 1. And that makes sense, right? Because how much is land number 1 worth, guys? 6. How much potential gain does he have? No one give me the finger. 1, right? Everyone agree? In land 1, he has a potential gain of 1. How much did he recognize already on the inventory? 2. So what's his overall potential gain? 3, right? Oh, look again at the partner's capital account at the very start of the problem. What was A's potential gain, guys?
3.
3, right? His capital account was 6. His adjusted basis was 3, right? Deal's good, right? We proved ourselves correct. Who's right? You got that? All right, let's go. A has, if you agree with this, in land one, A has a basis of 5 and it's worth 6. Why? Because he bought it for 2,000, 1/3 of the land, and the other portion of the land he got a distribution, and his outside basis was 3 at the time, which would cause the basis of that property to be 3. So his basis in land one is 5. His fair market value is 6. So if he goes to sell it, he'll have a $1,000 capital gain. He already recognized $2,000 on the constructive sale, right? So he had $3,000 of overall gain. And when we look at the capital account in problem 3, his capital account is 6, the basis is 3. We knew from the start he should overall recognize $3,000 worth of gain. Okay? Right? Now, the authors point out in problem 3b, any difference in results if a 754 election is in place. And notice, 754 elections are when inside and outside bases aren't the same. And here our taxpayer, remember, the tax basis in land number 1 went up, like that he got as a result of a distribution, went up from 2,000 to 3,000. So what should happen here is, if I have my red ink, is that the basis here should go down to 2,000 because he got an increase in basis, and to create symmetry, this should go down so that there would be symmetrical. If there's a 754 election, that basis in land number 2 should go down. Okay? This is under I apologize. The $1,000 downward adjustment is under code section 734B2, capital letter B. I'll repeat. 734B2, capital letter B. And it just quoted any questions. So, question 4. Regulations intimate that a 734B2 downward adjustment only applies to distributions in complete liquidations of a partnership interest, which is true because only in a liquidation can you have a loss. Only in a liquidation can you have a loss. And as a result, that's the only time, if you experience a loss, that there will be a downward adjustment. Whereas the 734B1 upward adjustment may be applicable to both operating and liquidating distributions. And there, you could have a gain or loss because if you distribute cash, right, during an operating distribution, you could have a gain or loss. Let's leave question 4 aside. I'm not that concerned about muddying the water with 754 elections here, guys. Here's my takeaway for this segment. Liquidating distributions. For the first time with liquidating distributions, you can see that a taxpayer can experience a loss. Okay, everyone agree? That was problem 1. Taxpayer could experience a loss. Agreed? When will that loss happen? When the distribution is limited to cash, accounts receivable, and inventory. If those are the only kinds of properties distributed, the taxpayer can experience a loss. If there is another kind of asset, a 1231 or a capital asset being distributed, there is no loss allowed. The excess basis will be allocable to that additional asset, okay? So just bear that in mind. And we see with the liquidating distribution, you have to be just as vigilant about the application of code section 751B, right? That you can have a disproportionate distribution. If you do, very exciting, you have to do your 3-step dance maneuver, right? All right, so that's what you have to do, all right? You have to consider that But what we've done here thus far, 736B payments, virtually identical to what we covered already in the prior chapter. There's really, in theory, no variation. So check yourself during the course this week. If you don't understand any of the outcomes here, you got to check yourself. All right, let's just talk. We have another 10 minutes or so. Just talk a bit about 736A payments, because 736A doesn't come up with real frequency, and you just have to be aware that if they do come up, how are you going to treat it? Okay? If 736A payments come up, how are you going to treat it? And the authors point out that, I will quote your attention on page 393. It says, the second full paragraph under section 336A, second paragraph, third line, it only applies to payments received by a general partner in a partnership in which capital is not a materially producing factor. Okay, so those are two necessary conditions for there to be a 736A payment. If they do apply, it doesn't apply to all the assets. It applies with very, very narrow application to unrealized receivables and partnership goodwill. And with respect to partnership goodwill, it's only unstated. What do I mean? If the partnership agreement provides that there's going to be partnership, and we're going to see cases on this, that there's actual goodwill that's supposed to be specified, it's stated goodwill. 736A does not apply to stated goodwill. And the two cases we're going to look at, guess what? There was ambiguity about whether or not there was stated goodwill. And one of the takeaways here is if you're a partner and your interest is being liquidated, do you want a 736A payment or a 736B payment? Right? If you're given a choice, right, and you got to walk the plank, do you want a 736A payment or do you want a 736B payment? What's your preference? Because that helps orient you to understand 736A and B. What would be your preference? And the authors point out that 736A, when I say the authors, the code says treat 736A payments generally as guaranteed payments. Let me give you a hint. Generally, 736A payments are going to result in ordinary income, right? Not capital gains. Generally, 736A payments are deductible to the partnership. I think I've said a lot by saying that. So, who wants 736A? Who wants 736B?
B.
Say again, George?
The partnership wants 736A.
No, we're talking
Right,
about
the
the
partnership wants 736A because it gets a deduction, and the partner wants what?
B. Yeah.
736B because it likely will lead to capital gains. All right? So generally there's a tension here. The partner is eager to avoid the application of 736A, whereas the remaining partners like it to be 736A. So we're going to see this in the cases. Just realize that because that's going to have a bearing on the outcome here. All right? Now, I'm going to point out something that many people, and I understand completely, 200%, many people miss. You will not be alone. So let me just call it, you can't see from where you are, but I highlighted in red for myself, but that's just to make sure you guys understand this. Page 394. There's payments for goodwill. Payments for goodwill. And what it says under payments for goodwill, third line down, it says, but section 736A assumes jurisdiction over such payments if they are made to a retiring partner in a service partnership to the extent that the payments exceed the partner's inside basis, if any, in the goodwill, and the liquidation agreement does not specifically state that the payment is for goodwill. And it cites to footnote 56 and footnote 57, that regulation, okay? What's the takeaway? Why am I calling this to your attention? Because the 736A doesn't apply to the entirety of the goodwill. It does not apply to the entirety of the goodwill. It only applies to that portion in excess of the adjusted basis. Let me repeat that. 736A does not apply to the entirety of whatever the goodwill is. And if the goodwill, let's say, is valued at 10,000, and the adjusted basis in the goodwill is 4,000, the 736A is how much? 6,000. It's the portion above the adjusted basis up to the fair market value. So many people think, oh, 736A, it's the entirety of the goodwill. No, it's only that portion above the adjusted basis. Everyone with me? And if you're not, that's okay tonight. We're going to go through this in more detail. And then, beginning on page 395, you see that premium payments on page 395. If you look at the premium payments, and this is something else. So we just said that 736 A has limited application except with respect to premium payments. And if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines, premium payments, any payments in excess of the amount in the form of cash or other property are governed by 736A regardless of the legal form, general or limited of the partnership. So all I'm calling to is saying, on one hand, I'm saying 736A never applies, right? Because how many general partnerships are there, and there are service partnerships and very limited. But then I am going to say 736A does have a real potential, right, to apply to these so-called premium payments. So I just want to call that to your attention because when we go through the problems, you may miss that. Now, if you look at page 395, it talks about the tax stakes. And if you read the next 2 or 3 pages, it talks about who wants 736A, who wants 736B. And then you will see these are not hard cases to read. Controversy erupts because partnership agreements are not always clear. We have the Smith v. Commissioner case and Commissioner v. Jackson. These are not like Crane or Lucas v. Earl. These are not water cooler cases. But they do illustrate the application of 736A. The good news is the problems on page 407, once again, reinforce what we learned last week. They will reinforce what we learned tonight. So if you're still getting a little bit shaky, that's okay. We will obviously finish up page 409. Go keep reading into liquidations versus sales. You notice, guys, we did not cover a lot of pages tonight, okay? So we will finish this chapter, and if you could, chapter 12, if you could read just the first part up to page 427, okay? So if you do the arithmetic, guys, we don't have that many pages to read, so please review the material. I will see everyone next week. Any questions logistically? We're all good? All right, so have a good night, guys. Thanks for coming. Those people on WebEx, thanks for joining us tonight.